So I was in central Bakhmut 10 days ago with the Times team and spoke to a lot of the soldiers fighting there and the commanders fighting there, and was able to move into some areas of the center of the city. I don't think it's going to fall anytime soon. And here's why. The Russians have managed to dominate the battlefield around the city. It's a small city or large town, depending on how you look at it. In the last 48 hours, the Russians have captured the entire east side of the city. The city is divided north to south by a thin river. But there's been fighting in that eastern side really since the beginning of December. So it's not like they've just swept in yesterday and grabbed it. They've just got the last few streets that they didn't already hold. They have got this kind of three-quarter circle around part of the city, and they can fire upon the last Ukrainian supplies road going in and out. It's not even a paved road. It's kind of muddy and zigzaggy and not a great place to get wounded out of or ammunition in. However, inside Bakhmut, there are thousands of Ukrainian soldiers. There are thousands of Ukrainian soldiers on the west side of Bakhmut, many of them on high ground overlooking the battlefield. And the Russians will find it quite hard to close the complete encirclement of the city with the units they've got, given the shape of the ground, and that there are still thousands of Ukrainians fighting on inside that city. There is a shortage of ammunition on both sides, which is going to affect how the culminating moments of that battle could come about. So I think the battle could go on yet for weeks. I don't think it's likely to be over in days.
And it is still Russia's intention to take on the whole town, the whole of Bakhmut. There's no hints that they might settle, that it's become about pride. And actually, when you take a little step back, perhaps it's not that practical to be losing so many lives.
Bakhmut, first of all, is that there's a few fallacies about Bakhmut. People say it's not of strategic importance. It is of strategic importance. It sits on a major road hub, and whoever controls Bakhmut has roads going straight into the heartland of the Ukrainian-held kind of economic zone of the Donbass area out there, the cities of Kramatorsk, the cities of Slovyansk. So Bakhmut's really important on a practical, physical, topographical level. But it's also important because for both sides, it's become such a symbolic battle in which both sides have lost thousands and thousands of fighters, dead and wounded. I mean, it's bled out a lot of the reserves which Ukraine had hoping to get prepared for a spring counteroffensive, have ended up actually embroiled in the Battle of Bakhmut, and Ukrainians have had huge casualties there. Zelensky himself, President Zelensky, visited Bakhmut in the past, and the word "fortress Bakhmut," the phrase "fortress Bakhmut" is very prevalent amongst Ukrainian media. It's a lot of emotional attachment to the sacrifice of its troops there. But Prigozhin and the Wagner Group, it's become a very symbolic battle. They want to capture Bakhmut from the Ukrainians to show not just to Putin that present him with a victory, but also show to the Russian generals and defense minister with whom Prigozhin so often quarrels, hey, my private mercenary army, my convict army, Wagner Group, have got a victory which the Russian army have not managed to achieve. So there's a lot of internal rivalries going on there too. Very important battle for all sorts of reasons.
And if the Wagner Group are successful, they will point to the fact that they did it without enough artillery and ammunition support from Russia. Prigozhin's been complaining about that. Does he have a point? Are they being as supported by Putin as they should be?
Well, the switch goes on and off. But I think it's fair to say that both sides have got really big problems with their supply of artillery shells, particularly 152 and 155 millimeter artillery shells. Prigozhin might have had a shortage. He made a statement 2 days ago suggesting that he'd been, the click switch had been pressed off to his ammunition supplies.
He was being shafted.
Yeah, he might have been shafted, or it may be that was just a glitch in the bureaucracy. It may be the statement he made actually referred to an earlier point in the battle. But here's the thing: whether he was short of artillery shells or not, the Russians still managed to outgun the Ukrainians by a ratio of 7-1. That's 7 Russian artillery shells fired for every one they received back from the Ukrainians. So both sides, there was a meeting in Stockholm today amongst EU officials to try and sort out organising 1 million artillery shells for Ukraine, such as the Ukrainian shortage at the moment. So the supply of shells in this really high intensity warfare, attritional warfare, dominated by artillery, is a subject of great concern for both sides.
Finally, we know that German prosecutors have confirmed today that investigators are searching a boat that may have been used in last year's Nord Stream gas pipeline bombings. The allegation is that a pro-Ukrainian group was responsible. Where do you think this particular situation might go? There's been denials from all sides, really, but it still remains a mystery, doesn't it?
Absolutely intriguing mystery. But here's the thing. Whoever did that job, it's a really complex job. You've got to know, you've got to get the team together, highly specialized team, either of divers working great depths around oil pipes or electricity cables or whatever, or special forces operatives. You've got to get the team together. You've got to get the explosives, the bomb making gear together, which is not that easy if it's being done, clandestinely. You've got to get not just the boat, but you've got to work out how not to get observed. It's so intensive surveillance over that stretch of sea the whole time. Now, that would be a difficult enough job for special forces belonging to a state. That would take a long time to get that team together and put that operation in. To think that it might have been a group of kind of mercenary special forces put together by an individual so soon after the war had begun, because it happened very quickly after the war had begun, kind of tests the bounds of credibility. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it would have been a difficult enough job for a state to pull off with highly trained special forces, let alone a rogue oligarch or investor trying to pull together a mercenary team.
And if you enjoyed that, you can listen to me, Kate Borsay, every evening, Monday to Thursday, 8 until 10 on the evening edition on Times Radio.